Hey everyone, a nerd named Mark here, and I'm reviewing another comic book. This time, issue number one of a new comic from Image, Little Monsters. Yeah. So, uh, I told a full story on my podcast when I was going over my comic book hauls. Every once in a while, my comic book, local comic shop, the person who runs it, they'll see like a new comic coming out. I'll set it aside, like, hey, they know what I like based on my pull list. So, and I don't just go and buy my comics and leave. I have conversations all the time. I'll be in there for a half hour, just talking. So they told me that, hey, you might like this apocalyptic and a world group of kid vampires. And I was like, I'm not really big into vampires anymore. Like vampires and zombies, burnt out on it. But I do like, something as children, House of Slaughter, stuff like that. So I've been getting more into stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, no, I'll give it a chance. It's a first issue. I'll read it, see if it me, and it did. And since I'm trying to do more comics and not just the mainstream ones like indie stuff and newer issues coming out and stuff like that and trades, so I was like, I'm gonna review this. I just recorded a couple other comic reviews. So, Little Monsters, written by Jeff Lemire, who wrote Sweet Tooth and a few other ones, but was the main one I know him from. So I was like, all right, this is gonna be good writing. And the artwork is by Dustin Newman. Not too familiar, but after like reading it, seeing the art style, this I was like, ooh, this is so good. Um, so how this is gonna work, I'm gonna give you like an overview of everything that happens in the comics, spoilers. Then I'm just gonna talk about of it, art styling, I enjoyed about it. So there's a group of children. We're introduced with them throughout, a couple pages here and there. The children are Romy, Yui, Boy, Lucas, Ronnie, and Raymond, who are twins. We have Billy, Bats, and Vicky. Right off the bat, the art style is everything's black and white, except for certain colors like red, black, white, and red for a majority of it. Towards the end, we see some yellow and blue, but I just like that. Whenever there's and it's not everything that's red either, blood and stuff like that. Like whenever there's or like a flag, because they were doing capture the flag. Whenever there's a comic book that keeps black and white and purposely chooses when to use a color, I'm always on for it from an art standpoint. That's so good. So this main issue was to like kind of not introduce the world, but more of the kids. So we see them all doing various things. Romy, Rami's just walking around, exploring and drawing on walls. Yui is going to Lucas, or no, not Billy. Billy is playing guitar. They're all doing different things. Ronnie and Raymond are just horsing around twins, being roughhousing and you know, goading each other into jumping off a roof. And there's a nice little comedy moment where it's like one, two, three, and one twin jumps, the other one doesn't. And he's like, and he hurt his leg. He's like, why didn't you jump? He's like, we always go one, two, three, jump, not one, two, three, and jump on three. Which I always that joke is always overused. A lot of stuff like, do we go on three or after three? But I always appreciate it when it's used because it's a staple joke. It works. That's why it's used so much. Um, so the main thing is getting their personalities by how they're interacting with each other. That's what this whole thing does. So a majority of this is them just, one playing guitar, being all like isolated, and the other one's like, do you remember? Do you write down your songs? Just play them until you remember. Like, and he's like, I don't even know. He just like, I don't write them down. I'll just play them until I forget them. And then says, well, do you ever think you already just wrote a song you already wrote in the past? He's like, I don't know. Because you find out they've been doing this at least 100 years. At 100 years. I don't know how many years exactly, but they said it seems like hundreds of years because they're vampires. And another cool thing, because it's a black and white comic, you don't realize it's at night until the end of the comic. We're like, oh, sun's coming up. We need to go. And I was like, okay, because the main thing too is like a lot of them are doing the same thing at night and now getting bored because they've been doing the same thing for plus years and they've never interacted with anyone else. So there's not a lot going on in this issue because it is just introducing characters, getting used to their personalities, seeing them interact with each other, but in groups. It's not like you don't see them as a full group of all of them together until the end. So it's, they're here, three over here, two there, just sitting down on like, a broken bridge, just playing guitar and talking. Very, I don't want to say slow, but it's an introductory. So that's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this comic a second issue to read because I want to see it up on a cliffhanger towards the end. Um, Romy is the only one who's not back, and like, oh, the sun's coming up, we have to hurry, and like, oh, you guys go in, go to sleep, I'll go get him. And something happens with Romy because he's drawing on the walls and hanging around, and he sees something that startles him. And on the last page, they find an adult that's injured asking for help as the sun is coming up and Romy's found, and they haven't seen anyone in over 100 years because they're waiting for master vampire person to come back, and they even said he's not doubt he's ever going to come back. So the fact that they ended on such a cliffhanger, I'm like, there's a human? What? This is insane. Um, I was like, okay, you got me hooked because now I'm curious. What made this post-apocalyptic? What happened? What had they been doing for hundreds of years? Like, it raised enough questions to keep me hooked and make me want to read the next issue. Whereas some comics, when they leave you a lot of questions, they don't give you any information. You're kind of like, oh, well, this is slow and boring. Why am I got nothing? But because this issue focused so much on the introduction of the characters, learning their personality types a bit on the surface at least, I was like, all right, I'm intrigued. This is I want to give me more. Like, give me the second issue. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's from Image Comics. So, as I always say in my podcast, go hit up your local comic book shop, ask them for Little Monsters. You will not regret it. This is such a good comic. I'm looking forward to issue number 2 because I want to know more about this world that's being created by Jeff Lemire. I want it's really good. Definitely go check it out. So yeah, that's really it for the review. Quick, because there's not really a lot to talk about because it's very conversation heavy in this and that. So hopefully by the time issue 2 comes out, more to talk about. It's definitely a comic I'm going to keep talking about and covering as long as I. That being said, I thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments below any comics you're reading, any set recommendations. If you watch my regular podcast, you'll see what I pull for comics on average. And yeah, so I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.